Hello all, welcome to Tech Capture. So now in this video we are going to discuss about our next compute service in Google Cloud, that is Cloud Run function. So in our previous videos we already discussed about a Google Compute Engine, Google App Engine, Google Kubernetes Engine and Cloud Run. So we also deployed a sample application on all of these services. Okay, so now in this video we are going to discuss about a Cloud Run function. So one interesting thing about a Cloud Run function, that this is formerly known as a cloud function. So they just recently renamed as a cloud function. Now it is interesting stuff to understand why these are renamed as a Cloud Run function, because we already have one service called Cloud Run and the cloud function was the different service. So let's try to understand some history regarding the cloud function. Okay, so I just collected some information about the cloud function because I was working on the Google Cloud since last 6 to 7 years and I have seen a lot of changes on the cloud function. So I just went some documentation and tried to collect the history of the cloud function. So if you are new to cloud function, you will just understand from the scratch, or if you're already working on the cloud function since long time, you will also get some information related to the cloud function or cloud run function. So in this video I might call it as a cloud function or cloud run function because I am already used to calling it as a cloud function. I'm using this since past few years, but I'll just try to call it as a cloud run function. So if you are new, just try to name it as a cloud run function and you will just get used to it. Okay, so let's jump and see what was the history behind a cloud function. So in March 9, 2017, Google just released the cloud function for the first time and they released it in the beta version. So beta version is kind of the preview mode where you can just test the service, how it works, and you will just make it ready for production. But these are still not cover a SLA, and Google does not recommend to use in the production until and unless these are in GA or generally available mode. Okay, so after almost 1 year, Google just released cloud function in general availability and recommended for production load. So almost they took 1 year for all the users to test this service, work on this service, provide feedback, provide issues, and after 1 year they just made this service generally available for a public use. Okay, so this is from 2017 to 2018. Now 4 years, what Google does, so Google just introduced second generation of the cloud function that is available in the preview mode. Now when Google introduced a cloud function in GA mode, so they keep upgrading the events. In first generation, Google Cloud Function was working on the four different types of event like PubSub, cloud storage, HTTP trigger, and few more triggers were there. Around 5 to 7 triggers were there only for the first generation. Now they just released the cloud function second generation in preview mode, where they added more than almost 90 plus events. So they just added the functionality with the event track, so event track can track the events from any of the Google Cloud service. I'll show you the difference between the first generation and second generation later, but in the history I just wanted to show in 2022 they just introduced cloud function second generation, and now here that foundation gets started for the renaming of the cloud function, because the cloud function second generation started using the cloud run at the backend. So whenever you are creating a second generation cloud function, they used to deploy it on the cloud run at the backend. Okay, and then in August 2022, so they just made second generation available for the production use in the GA mode. Now interesting stuff, in August 21, 2024, the cloud function completely renamed to the cloud run function, because the second generation has a lot of capability and they already utilizing the cloud run, so there is no point keeping the same service in two places, in the cloud function as well as it will look in cloud run as well. So they just rename it to the cloud run function, and now they just try to merge both the platform cloud function and cloud run, and in future they will only keep cloud run, and in cloud run you will have functionality to deploy cloud run as a service, as a job, and as a function. I will show you that as well. Okay, so cloud function first generation in future will be known as a cloud run function first generation, and second generation will by default known as a cloud run function. So whenever you are talking about cloud run function, so by default these are the second generation, and if you are using the first generation, then you have to specify that the first generation. So that was the quick history of the cloud function, that how they renamed to the cloud run function after introducing to the second generation. Okay, now I'll just go and see what is a cloud function now. So let me go to the next slide and we'll try to cover what is a cloud function. So cloud function or cloud run function is a lightweight compute solution for developer to create a single purpose standalone function. So in cloud run or app engine or Kubernetes engine, mostly we used it for the application where the service needs to be keep running, or service has a concurrent task, or service needs lot of operations to do. But in cloud function it is just executing your single function, single task within a short period of time. Okay, and this is a standalone function. These are not kind of the application or the service. So this is a simple function, simple piece of code which needs to be executed on a certain event. Okay, so cloud function is a serverless execution environment for building and connecting cloud services. So this is very smooth integration with all the cloud services, and you can capture any of the cloud event and trigger the code based on that event. So in cloud function you can write a single purpose function that are attached to events, and once your event is happen it will execute your code. Okay, so your function is triggered when an event being watched is fired. So your code executes in fully managed environment. So as we said, it is fully managed environment. I don't need to worry about the backend server or backend infrastructure, and there is no need to provision any infrastructure or worry about managing servers, as I said. Now we'll try to understand what is a cloud function event and trigger. So cloud events are the thing that happen in your cloud environment. So anything happening in your cloud infrastructure is an event. So someone is uploading file to your storage bucket, that is one event. Someone is deleting the virtual machine, that is an event. And now suppose you have to perform specific task on a specific event, you have to specify the trigger. So trigger is declaration that you are interested in certain event or set of events. Now I'll just give you a simple example. So I just want to perform a task. So whenever uploading file to the storage bucket, I just want to check the size of that file. If size is more than 5 MB, I have to delete that file. Now that is the simple use case. So now what is the event? So event is whenever uploading file to the storage bucket, that is a event. Now I will set up the trigger that okay, notify me whenever uploading file to the storage bucket. Now if event is happened, someone uploaded file to the storage bucket, your trigger will be fired. It will just notify okay, some file is there, someone uploaded the file, and that trigger will execute your function, and then your function is have code to check the size of the file and delete that file if it is more than 5 MB. That is a simple use case I am giving, and mostly it is used for the data processing. So it will check for the file. If file is there, it will just process the file. So we'll have a lot of use cases and lot of hands-on demos in a cloud function in our further video. I'm just trying to explain you what is events and what is trigger here. Now you can see the simple diagram here. So you can take any of the cloud service, it will just emit the event. So events can be anything which is happening in your cloud services, and based on the event it will respond to event, execute your function, and your function might perform other operation, or your function might respond back to event. Now respond back to event, it means suppose you have to delete the file which is there in the event, then it is responding back to that event. Or suppose you have to process the file once you have received, then you are just invoking other services, you are just invoking your data flow job. That can be an example. Okay, and what are the triggers available? So this is the screenshot from the second generation cloud run function, where we have HTTPS trigger, where we have a cloud pub/sub trigger. So whenever someone publish the message or some messages published to pub/sub topic, it will trigger your cloud function. Cloud storage, if some file is uploaded or deleted or updated in the cloud storage bucket, it will just trigger your function. Then for cloud file store and other triggers, so in other trigger you will have event rank, and event rank can be triggered on any of the events, any of the your methods in your cloud services. Okay, so we'll see all these things in detail. Now what I will do, I'll go to Google Cloud Console and we'll see our first demo with a cloud function, and I'll also try to explain these concepts like events, triggers, first generation, second generation, what is the difference between first generation and second generation on our console. So let's go to the Google Cloud Console now. So I am on my Google Cloud Console homepage. So simply you can type a cloud function here. So now you won't see a cloud function option because it is renamed as a cloud run function. So I'll go to a cloud run function here. Okay, and now you can see recently they renamed as cloud run function. So you can see here we'll be integrating cloud function into a cloud run UI in the upcoming months. As I said, they are just merging both this platform, cloud function and cloud run, and they are just trying to keep as a single cloud run platform. So now let me just show you in cloud run how they are trying to integrate a cloud function. So if I go to a cloud run, okay, so I'll just simply go to cloud run, and in cloud run now you will have three options. So these are the services we deployed in our last video. So now in future in cloud run you will have three options. Either you can deploy container as a service, or you can deploy as a job, or third option you will have a write function. So here you will have option to create a cloud function within your cloud run platform itself. So if I go to a write function, now you can see you will have three options. Okay, as I said, it is deploying the container image from service, and now this is in preview phase because the cloud run function is still available here, and this message is related to this preview phase. So once this preview will be in GA mode, you won't see this cloud function here or cloud run function. Okay, so that will be a future thing. Currently the date is 28 December. I am recording video today on 28 December 2024. So not sure how it they will merge together these two platforms. So as today's days we have a cloud run function, and we are seeing the notice here. Now we'll try to create cloud function here, cloud run function, and we'll have our first demo. Okay, now simply I'll just click on the create function. So I'm creating it for very first time in this project. It will ask me to enable API. So if you created in your project, it will not ask you, but very first time it will ask you to the enable API. So just enable API, because without enabling you cannot use these services in a Google Cloud. Okay, so API is enabled and it is directly on a function create screen. Now you can see here environment by default selected as a cloud run function, because we discussed the second generation are renamed as a cloud run function, and first generation renamed as a cloud run function first generation. Okay, so this is your second generation and this is your first generation. Now what is the difference between first generation and second generation? So first let's go for first generation. Okay, and I will give the name as the function 1 for first generation, and we'll have demo for both. Okay, so this is a first generation. Now if I set up the trigger, so first we'll go with the HTTP trigger. Let's check the option. So it is having HTTP, pops up, cloud storage, file storage. These are four in globally or generally available mode, and others are preview. So it means these are not in use currently or not ready for the production use. So in first generation we are only having four triggers. Okay, and if I go for second generation, you will see pops up storage, file store, other trigger, and in other trigger let me enable the event track. So it will use event track. In event track you will have trigger for each of the Google services. So these are more than 100 of the events, more than hundreds of the events are there where for you event trigger. So now let's see source. It can be Google source or third party. If I go with the Google source, so you have event for each of the services. So in second generation you have a lot of capabilities that you can trigger a function based on each of the service event. You can see the options here, correct? So this is in the other trigger. So these are more than 100 triggers in the second generation. So definitely second generation is having a lot of capabilities compared to the first generation. Now let's see a few more differences between cloud run function first generation and cloud run function second generation. Okay, so on my screen you can see the difference between cloud run function first generation and second generation, which is by default cloud run function. First generation used to have a container registry as well as artifact registry support, but now container registry is decommissioned. So in upcoming days or for ongoing Cloud Run function, you have to use only artifact registry. So the request timeout only 9 minutes for Cloud Run function, but for Cloud Run function second generation, you have 60 minutes for HTTP trigger, and other trigger you still have a 9 minutes. Again, for an instance size, you can use up to 8 GB RAM and 2 CPU. That is only for the single task small scale function. But in second generation, you can use 16 GB RAM and a 4 CPU. So just double the instance size. Okay. And in first generation, you can only have one concurrent request per function instance. But in second generation, it is using the Cloud Run at the backend, so it will have a 1000 concurrent request per function. Okay. So traffic splitting, it is not supported because it is not using the Cloud Run at the backend. But in Cloud Run function second generation, traffic splitting is available. Okay. So event type, as I said, direct support for event from 7 sources. So 4 were in the GA phase and remaining were in the preview phase. And here support for any event type supported by event rec, including 90 plus event sources via cloud audit log. So this is having a higher capabilities. And cloud event supported only in Ruby, .NET, PHP runtimes, and this supported in all language runtimes. Now these are the basic difference between Cloud Run function first generation and Cloud Run function second generation. Now we'll go back to the Cloud Console and we'll create a two cloud function, one with a first generation, one with the second generation. So let's go back to the Cloud Console now. Okay, so let's create our first cloud function with the first generation. So let me go and select the first generation function 1, and I will go with the HTTP trigger, allow an authenticated invocation because we want to check on the public API or the public browser. I will just uncheck this, save, and we'll go for the next. So where we'll have a source code. So here we have multiple languages, so we'll go for Python 3.8. Okay, and this is the message it will display. So I'll just hello world from first generation function. Okay, so it will just accept the HTTPS GET request event, and then it will execute this hello world function. So this hello world function it will execute. So let me just deploy. So this is the simple function we are deploying with a Cloud Run function first generation, and it is having a HTTP trigger. So whenever someone accesses that HTTP URL, it will execute my function. So it will take couple of minutes. Now it is deployed. So before testing, I'll go back and create for second generation as well, and then we can compare the functionality for these two. So now I will go for the Cloud Run function, which is second generation. I'll give name as a function 2. I'll go with the HTTPS allow unauthenticated. Next, we'll go with the same Python 3.10. I'll just do here hello world from second generation function. Okay, and I'll just deploy this as well. So now we'll have two function, one will be a first generation, one will be a second generation. Let me open duplicate tab and we'll open in both the tab to compare. So the second generation is in progress. Here let's open second generation here. Okay, so now we have two function. Function 1 is first generation and this is second generation which is in progress. So I'll open second generation here and first generation. We'll go back. So now you can see for the second generation it is creating the Cloud Run service. Here you can see in first generation it haven't created a Cloud Run service. I'll open the first generation. Yeah, now you can see here it haven't created a cloud run service. It is just a function 1 first generation, but for the second generation it is created cloud run service. Now at the right you can see here that it is created a cloud run service. So these function you can see in cloud run as well, because it created a cloud run service at the backend. When you are creating with the second generation, it will create a cloud run service in the backend, and if you are creating with the first generation, it is just simply a cloud function. Now if I go to cloud run, okay, and show you, you will see our second function here, because this is our second generation function and it is built on the cloud run. But your first generation, it is simply a cloud run first generation function. Now how to test these both the function? Okay, so let's go back, and first I'll open the first generation. So trigger, so we have HTTPS trigger. If I click on this, it will execute my code. So let's see what is the response, and you can see the hello world from cloud function first generation. And if we go cloud run function for the second generation, and let's see the response. So here the response hello world from the second generation. Now hope you understood what is a cloud run function, and we can deploy our simple cloud function using a cloud run function. So in next video we'll have more use cases. We'll deploy a cloud run function with a GCS buckets trigger, and we'll come up with the use case. So it's kind of the real world use case. So we'll just try to upload some file and then do some operation on the file based on the storage bucket trigger. So that's it for this video, and we'll see you again in a next video.